I'm already on a mic. I'm recording. I'm going to record 11 seconds before we start this episode and just say that we are about to talk to Stefanie Black, who is the marketing coordinator from the Grand Ledge Area District Library. We had a real chatty episode. Everybody. You're listening to A Little Too Quiet. It's the Ferndale Library Podcast, and it's brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. I'm Jeff. I'm joined, as always, by Mary Graham.
Hello.
And joining us on the podcast now is Stefanie Black from Grand Ledge. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
The Grand Ledge District Library?
Grand Ledge Area District Library.
Yes.
It's a whole mouthful.
Yes.
That's
but
great.
As a fellow area district library. Yes.
Yeah, Area District Library.
I was also
us.
just thinking there's so many grand things in Michigan. Grand Haven, Grand Ledge, Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
As a Detroiter, we have Grand River.
Sure.
You know, when you think of I don't know, if you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you.
Yeah.
There's grand stuff all over.
Yeah. So is there I'm imagining kind of I have a cartoon mind. It's a Looney Tunes mind of Wile E. Coyotes. Is there a cliffside somewhere, like a literal Grand Ledge somewhere?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, actually, we have a park here that is Fitzgerald Park, and it's the home of the ledges, which is why it's called Grand Ledge. And they're these ancient limestone cliffs from a long, long time ago.
Do people climb on them?
There is a section that you can climb on. So they've put the little hooks and stuff, and they all do climbing up. You can't just climb off of anything. You have to go in that very specific area that they made for it.
This answers all my questions.
Yeah, listener, of course you can't see our faces because this is an audio medium, but I wish you could see the delighted surprise that both Jeff and I are registering.
Because I don't want to sound like a bad Michigander, but are there actually rapids in Grand Rapids?
I couldn't tell you. I'm an East Sider.
No? Okay. Yeah.
The Grand River is actually really shallow. So at a lot of points, you could actually just kind of walk across it. I mean, don't, because, currents and cold, but
water safety.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're kayaking or canoeing, you can very easily scrape your boat at some points.
That's what the White River in Indianapolis is like.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of things involving John Green because he's been a favorite author of mine for a while, and he is also a noted resident of Indianapolis, which I only just learned last night. They decided to make the capital because it is the quite literal middle of the state and on a river, and they thought that the White River was navigable. It's not. You too can scrape your kayak on the bottom of the Giardia-filled White River. But
sure.
That's Indianapolis, baby.
We've started this podcast being so Michigan, and we are going to continue doing that.
Michigan intensifies.
I can't help but maybe get some clarification as to whether or not Stefanie is a lifelong Michigander.
I was born here, yes.
Okay.
When I turned 18, I moved down to Florida and lived down there for a while.
Okay.
And then I moved back up here in 2009 when I had my son. And then I've been back here ever since.
But so we were just going to go on and on. I was so curious if you were I just moved here a year ago. So you know what's up. So
would you care to comment on this, the middle of February with much snow on the ground?
Oh, yeah.
Your opinions on the weather here versus the weather in Florida.
Yes.
Well, I love Michigan. I love the seasons. Florida doesn't have seasons. They just have hot and slightly less hot.
That would make me sad.
And a lot of people think, oh, you get to go to the beach and everything. Even if you live 10 miles away from the beach, when you live in Florida, you don't go to the beach. It's all the tourists that go to the beach. So I would much rather be in Michigan right now than Florida any day.
Well, my mother and I have this thing that we like to call Detroit and Michigan superiority complexes. So she is going to love, she and I are both not originally from here, but Michigan superiority complex. So she's going to love this episode.
Yeah. I mean, of course we have a complex. We have a lake that's named for that, right? So.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, we do.
Literally.
We do.
Oh my God.
And we think they're great.
Not just we, the whole
Everyone
world.
has acknowledged that they are great.
This is my whole thing. Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. But are any of them great? No, I ask you.
Maybe, yeah.
No, Jeff, they're literally not.
Sure.
Look on a map. Are you going to see Anyway, Stephanie, we've called you here today.
Oh, yes. I have more tangents. One more tangent.
Okay.
I swear it's the last tangent, which goes back to John Green in Indianapolis. Because the two things I know about Grand Ledge are there apparently are ledges and you can climb on them. That's great.
And we just learned this.
I know that it's relatively close to Lansing, which is the capital of our great state, which is also in and of itself sort of the middle,
the palm,
kind of the palm,
a little.
And I almost want to retro.
We can all do the thing.
Yeah.
It's about right here.
Yeah.
I almost feel like we did the same thing as Indiana. We were like, oh, it's the middle. Let's do it.
I would have to go look up. Obviously, I mean, I haven't taken a history of Michigan class.
Only we
since
were
I
in a
was
place where we
grader.
look up things.
Well, that's true. If only we had the tools.
Only we had a
at our
library.
disposal. But considering something history, something Northwest Territory.
Yeah.
Probably something similar.
Sure.
I mean, obviously we're better than Indiana.
We are.
Apologies to any.
Sorry if we have any fans in Indiana.
But you understand how it is because you all think you're better than Kentucky. But
Lansing. So that's kind of where you are. Yeah. What? Refresh me because I only have a 3-minute memory span. Did you say where in Michigan you were born? Tell us about you, Stephanie. Our tangents have finally ended. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, I was born over in the West Side.
Okay.
And, not to diverge any password information of where you were born, but I was born over by Lake Michigan area-ish.
Okay.
And then I ended up going to school over there until 9th grade. And then we moved across the state and I lived in Centerline, Warren for 4 years and went to Centerline High School, graduated from there. Moved back to Lansing. My family moved around a lot when I was young. And then I went to college for a little bit up at Lansing Community College. And that's when I moved down to Florida a little bit after that. Okay. So the majority of my life has been spent in Michigan in some capacity. Never lived up north. It's always been on the west side or the east side or the middle.
Let's talk about libraries. Let's talk about your life in libraries, your memory of libraries. We also like to ask what your most hated or most entertained misconception about libraries that you've encountered that seems to be prevailing, that you like to shoot down. What is that for you? And were you ever guilty of holding it yourself?
Okay, so that was a lot of questions all in one. So which one are we starting?
Misconceptions.
What's misconception? Okay. So definitely in my adult life, it was very much like, oh, libraries are just books. I love the show Parks and Rec. And I actually just rewatched it because it's my comfort show for some odd reason. I'm like, I need all the comfort I can possibly get right now. And I had forgotten how much they hate libraries in it. And I thought it was so funny now working in a library. I'm like, that's hilarious to me. And I'm sure at the time that thought was very much projected out into libraries, the people that work at the libraries are all just crazy, people.
We're all Tammy too.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a big misconception that I had. When I had my son and I lived in another close by area, the library at the time, not now, but the library at the time they didn't really reach out to their community very much. It was very much a shush, this is the library. You come in, you are quiet. There's no community spaces, there's no youth spaces. And that really put me off. So I didn't even have a library card when I lived in that area. And I lived in that area for quite a while. And it felt sad to me because I was always like, oh, this is such a great resource. This is a great space, but they're not utilizing it, and the community doesn't really use it that much. Fortunately, though, there are new people that are there, and they've been there for a while, and the library is actually really thriving now. So I'm like really happy to see the journey that they've been on.
Love to hear that always. I am the same way about Parks and Recreation. And actually, when I got my job here, which was my first, I graduated from library school in May of 2020. So that was a great time for hiring. So when I finally got a job here in 2021, my parents gave me the 7-season box set of Parks and Recreation as a congratulations present, because
Nice.
there is no sitcom about librarians. Quinta Brunson, call me. But there is about, I mean, Parks and Recreation is kind of the closest you get as public service, like professionals.
Yeah.
And even when I was in grad school, my classmates and I would talk about, oh, what moments in Parks and Rec remind you of being at work? And, you know, sometimes it's the really like great, like Leslie Knope with her binders, like, oh my God, guys, we're gonna like, you know, fix everything. And sometimes it's the resident who calls the parks department and says, well, the sprinklers in the park said don't drink the water from the sprinklers, so I made sun tea with it. Now I have an infection. Like I used to work in a place like that. But it is, I also rewatch it and I'm like, that's funny, you know, she's like, here's your stupid 30 cents. This is why everybody hates the library. And I think that for a long time, that was that kind of perception of like, you know, shush, and everyone who works there is a control freak and they're gonna hound you for your 30-cent overdue fee.
Yeah.
And that is not, by and large, certainly how the libraries around here roll anymore.
Before Mary Graham asks her next question, I should say that the two of us co-presented at the Michigan Library Association annual conference, and the slides were pretty much 7 or 8% all Parks and Rec memes.
Yeah, and if you include memes in general, I think it was a solid 15 to 20% memes. Yeah. What can you tell us about your journey to libraries as a library worker? What made you want to work at one? How did you get the job that you have now? I can't say truthfully that I actively looked into working at a library at first. When I moved to Grand Ledge in 2018, I was looking for any kind of position that had anything to do with graphic design, web design, et cetera, et cetera. That's what my degree is in. And it just so happened the library had an open position. So I was like, that would be fantastic. This is completely along the lines of what I want to do. I know all about marketing and everything. So I applied. I had an interview went really well, but at the time they decided to hire in another person. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Just, you know, keep me in the loop in case any other positions become available, because I really want to be a part of this community. And like a month later, the person that got hired took a position somewhere else and had to move somewhere else. So it didn't work out. They called me right back, and I've been here for a little over 6 years at this point. So it just, it was kind of funny in how everything in the universe worked out, and I'm really happy it did. That is really awesome. And I think is also a great example of, I try to mention this a lot on the podcast because, of course, the listeners are all quite used to Jeff right here, who does very similar work to what you do. And it's a reminder that as much as, you know, I kind of can babble on about library school from time to time, there is stuff that you can do in libraries without having gone to library school. And marketing and community engagement is a huge, huge, huge part of that, especially because, like you said, you know, I think a lot of us who have kind of bummer experiences at libraries, and I've had them myself, it's the kind where you feel like they're not interested in the community around them, and they're just kind of a building that sits there like a lump.
Exactly.
And it's you and Jeff and folks who do work like yours that you're always out here being like, look at us, we've got cool things, come to us, we'll come to you.
Yeah.
Tell us what you want, tell us what you need.
Yeah.
So that is really awesome.
And what's your official title there, Stefanie?
Marketing coordinator.
All right, just like me. Rad.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I greatly appreciate librarians in general, like the things that they do and the things that they can put in their minds and like commit to memory is just astounding to me. But it was really nice to know that libraries did kind of hire outside of someone that has, their master's in library science or, whatever along those lines. Because again, misconceptions, I thought you had to be a librarian to work in a library. And when they were like, oh no, you're qualified in the sense that you have a digital multimedia degree, what I have. And they were like, no, you don't have to have a degree in library sciences. Like it helps if you know what the Dewey Decimal System and, like how libraries work. But, and I work in a back office, but I'll be out on the floor sometimes too, getting all the marketing stuff out and everything. And sometimes a patron will come up to me and ask me for help. And I'll just be like, I would love to help you. And I can help you with very simple things, but like trying to find all this like really in-depth stuff or try to do like research, I'm always like, let me get you an actual staffer or librarian that is trained in being able to do this stuff, and we will get you going.
Sure.
Well, I feel like this is also a great thing for like listener. If you are thinking about a career in libraries, this is a great object lesson in. There are several ways in, particularly if you end up working. This isn't always the case. Ferndale is relatively small. I don't know about Grand Ledge.
We're small.
Yeah. But especially if I'm thinking about the library I worked at in graduate school, which was, I think, had 50 full-time people. And that didn't even count, us part-timers. But there was so much that you could come in to do, whether that's marketing and communication. Here at Ferndale, we have our sort of material services, technical processing staffers who know the library better than I do, like back of their hand type stuff. That's not a library, like you don't need a master's of library science to do that.
No.
So if you're looking for a way in to work at your library, there's lots of on-ramps.
Yeah. Stefanie, we'd like to ask people about their library epiphanies. Is this, in fact, your library epiphany? Can you talk about being a marketing coordinator? And I'm sure you've had to find yourself telling the story of the library, or at least just extolling the wonders of the library. So did you have library epiphanies?
I think I probably already had it at this point. So I was hired in 2018, and as we all know, shortly, not too long afterwards, the whole world kind of, shut down, essentially. So I was very fortunate enough to be able to continue working from home, doing marketing stuff from home, doing outreach and stuff in the community from home. So a lot of that stuff was digging deeper in a way to try to reach people where they're at instead of coming into the library. And I think a lot of that just led to a constantly growing sense of just community in general, and just knowing like not everybody has accessibility to be able to come into the library, even if there isn't a pandemic going on. So it made me like really think out of the box for what we can do as a small library to be able to get into as many households as we can in our area, in our district. It was a lot of like finding out what works and what doesn't, and trial and error. And I think we're pretty, I wouldn't say a big thing in the community, but our community is very, they use the library a lot. And I like to think that, our outreach has been a really good part of that.
more about Grand Ledge.
Yeah.
And like just the things y'all are up to, the things you think are really cool.
What's the vibe there?
What's getting you hyped these days?
Yeah.
I love this city, and I'm not just saying that because I'm at work and I'm on the clock. Like, my son and I, we just got a house a few months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My first house in a very, very, very long time. So it was very, very nice. We love this community so much. We can walk around. It's super safe. It's super welcoming and friendly. I can walk to the library at this point, so it is somewhat of a walkable community. But we are also a rural community, so we have lots of farmland that surrounds us. Like, we're 10 to 15 miles outside of Lansing to the west. So we do still have our population areas. But definitely the more like country and farmland areas too. So it's a really nice balance of a whole lot of stuff. I wouldn't say there's a ton of like nightlife things to do. But as an older adult, I kind of appreciate that it's more of a daytime centric town. We have tons of parks here, so you can go to the parks. They're all gorgeous parks. The downtown area is really nice. We have a really good, thriving downtown businesses, anywhere between a gaming, like board gaming place. We have a record store downtown, which my son is like really getting into records right now, and I thought that was really cool. And we have a fantastic bakery and an actual real butcher, and it's really, really nice.
Jeff,
Charming.
what I'm hearing is day trip to Grand Ledge.
Yeah, sounds really charming.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. And if you really like baked goods and can have them, go to Flower Child, like my favorite place
Great
down
name.
here. It is so good.
Great name. See, this is one of my favorite. This is, part of this mini series we do called Cool Library People.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything about that title is true. It is all cool library people, but it's also, I feel like I get this like armchair tour of Michigan.
Yes.
Because we talk to people from all over the state.
Yes.
And I mean, you mentioned being in Centerline earlier in your life. We've chatted with someone who's currently at the Centerline Library, which was great. This is awesome.
And we do enjoy baked goods.
Oh my God, do we enjoy
Baked goods were dropped off yesterday, and
you should have seen. So Jeff was in. I was
talking to Mary Graham
and Aaron,
another staff member,
and
host.
we were in our all of our offices are named after fruit, which I am happy to say the youth department started that trend.
Yeah, we're in the lemon room right now.
My office. We're currently in the lemon room, but we were in my and Aaron's office, the blueberry room, yesterday, and we saw an email come in that a local bakery here in Ferndale, the Secret Bakery, had dropped off some of their extra bread at the end of the day. I have had Secret Bakery bread before. I think they were just nominated for a James Beard Award. There was dust in the wake of me and Aaron leaving our office to go to the break room to claim this bread. Jeff, I think we picked up mid-sentence.
Yes.
Like, we were talking to you, and I hope my mother's not listening to this episode, because against all my home training, I looked at my computer, stopped mid-sentence, and went, "There's Secret Bread Bakery in the break room? Hold on." And
well, I think they were pretty. They were pretty cordial. It wasn't so abrupt, but it was nearly abrupt. They were very cordial. So yeah, big fans of baked goods, big fans of libraries. Oh, and speaking of cool library people, so and you don't have to speak to this, Stephanie, of course you can, but we like to ask about the things you find most fulfilling about the role that you play at your library, and whether or not you bring any of your extra magic to the table. You and I see each other in Zoom meetings every month because we have these PR meetings. And I remember you saying two things that really stuck with me. I'm all about art. I want art everywhere. And I think you said something about being at least goth adjacent, if not witchy. So there you go. The table is yours.
Yes and yes.
Yes.
So I again, libraries are all about community and just bringing the community in. I love being a part of the community. I love the fact that I can walk downtown and I basically know or somewhat know almost all of the business owners down there in one way or another. I may not know their first name, but I'll come in, they'll know me. Just because I've worked really hard on building a relationship with many people, for our library promotions and everything. And art, it's something I'm really passionate about. I have my own art business that when I'm not working here, I'm traveling all over the United States selling my plush dolls that I design and my art and my stickers and enamel pins. And I just published a coloring book just a few months ago. So I have lots of coloring books that I am starting to sell now. And I just like bringing that all into the library. The summer reading theme that's art this year is I'm so excited for. I'm already accumulating all the decorations and my brain is okay, so I'm getting all these rainbow things, but I have to make it presented so it's art and everything. And I've got all these paint splats that we're gonna put on the windows and the walls and stuff. And just, I'm excited for March's Reading Month, which is coming up, but man, the summer reading program theme, I feel like I'm going to go all out for.
This is maybe my favorite summer reading theme of all the ones I've done. And this is going to be my 5th or 6th summer reading in my career.
Yeah.
So which is Color My World for those of you not already super locked in.
Sure. You'll be hearing about it soon enough.
To the magical world of whatever the collaborative summer reading organization
I appreciate that it's so broad too. It's art is such a huge thing. You can either use the graphics or you can just create your own thing. This one I feel is really going to be encouraging libraries from all over to just really be creative.
Yeah. Well, what was last year's, Jeff? Together.
Adventure Begins at Your Library.
No, sorry, 2 years ago then. The Together one.
Oh, All Together Now.
All Together Now. Yeah, we ended up turning that into a community gardening kind of theme. Yeah. As we were thinking about, so that's the fun thing about...
You can spin it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is a podcast, so go ahead and brag more about your art and your coloring books. And my goodness, do you have an Etsy store? What's the story? Are you hitting the craft fairs? What's tell us more.
So my business is called Creepy Kawaii, Kawaii. It's Japanese for cute. I used to do a whole bunch of anime cons and comic cons, but over the years I've really redefined my style and I've kind of moved away from that genre into more dark art and just creepy, cute kind of things. My plush dolls, I have all these little moth characters that all have little personalities. I just made a new plush of my mascot character, which is a black cat that basically is a supernatural being that turns into a black cat and goes and hunts for evil spirits. And when he catches them, he turns them into a mouse and kills them and presents them as a gift. I have these little angry desert rain frog plush that when you touch, you squeeze the butt, they squeak like an angry rain frog. Lots of skulls and bats and creepy thing that kind of is along the goth adjacent. When I'm at work, obviously, I mean, people can't see the video or anything, but so right now I have bluish black hair, and then when I'm doing shows actively, I'll color my hair more solid, brighter colors, pink, green, blue. I'm just letting it rest for right now.
Sure.
But goth makeup when I'm doing these shows. The shows that I'm currently traveling around with now are called the Oddities and Curiosities Expo. So basically, that's a really niche show that brings in thousands of people when they're all traveling to different states. And it's a lot of like taxidermy, wet specimens, really macabre kind of artists that do just not traditional artwork kind of stuff. There's people like me who do more things that are more gothy, but on the like cutesy kind of side. There's authors there, true crime, like all kinds of just darker things, and they're really fantastic shows. I'm actually touring with them and doing 14 shows with them throughout the United States this year.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. I'm
gonna have to see that black cat.
The like touchdown is I am a black cat. I don't own her because I'm sensible, but I take care of a black cat who lives in my house. And so whenever there's a black cat mention, I'm like, black cat mention. And also occasionally people ask me like, oh, like, what is she to you? Is she a roommate? Is she your fur baby? I'm like, no, she's my witch's familiar. Like I'm hanging out and she is my little companion.
Yeah.
And she would totally catch evil spirits for me.
Her name is Lucy, for anyone keeping track of lore at home.
Yes, her name is Lucy, and actually she is a black cat with a little white patch on her chest.
Oh, nice.
And right after I got her, one of my best friends texted me and said, there's a cat that's marked up like that in Scottish folklore that is like a fairy kind of cat. Okay. And perhaps you should ask your cat.
Yeah.
If she's actually fae. And I did ask her, and her response was, wouldn't you like to know? So, which just means probably yes.
Amazing.
So not that like listeners would know what I'm talking about here, but Jeff, is that the podcat picture that you shared the other day?
That's Lucy. I didn't know that you shared the podcast.
Oh, I did share the podcat picture. Yeah. In the meeting that we do every month.
We should put the podcat in the show notes.
That'll be in the show notes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So that's Lucy.
That's Lucy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
I was like, oh, the little white top. That's so cute.
Yes. Yep. That's her.
Well, you'll probably like my art because I'm very much in my black cat mascot era.
Yes.
I've got a whole bunch of like black cat stickers and things that I have available. I just did a repositionable sticker book that's got like black cats all over it. So yeah.
Great. All right. Creepy Kawaii. Everyone go check it out.
Yeah.
One other thing that we like to ask is about like something cool or just really interesting that your library circulates.
Yeah. Anything that isn't a book.
Even if it's something that is only for like your card holders and not something that, everyone can access. What does Grand Ledge say? Hey, did you know that we have about?
Well, while it's not unique to our library, we have been building up our Library of Things collection. And that's something that a lot of people all over don't realize that libraries have. It's just things. So specifically here, we have a lot of science kits that we have go out to the community. Citizen Science is one of the people that we work with.
They're great.
So they provide like water testing for funsies kind of thing, biodiversity. So in the spring, you can like record where the bees are seen on certain flowers and maybe they're avoiding other particular flowers. We have a local music company that kind of partners with us, and they lend ukuleles and guitars, basses, drum kits. You just basically have to put in a request, and then he will take it from his store in Lansing and bring it to the library so the patron can have that.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice that he does that. And the person that has the ukuleles will do ukulele classes and courses every so often. So here at the library. So that's a thing. And we have so many things, and we would have way more things if we weren't a smaller library and we had more space. Sure. But that's probably the thing that we've been building up the most over the last few years.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah. So for anyone out there who's like, sometimes you need a thing, but you don't want the thing to take up space, or you don't need it all the time. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. It's the perfect size for me, but like my basically 2-room library that I work at. The space that is limited. And so check out your local library. See if there is a library of things. And my personal favorite thing that we have here is a darning egg in our library of things.
Wow.
Because I like to mend my clothes, and I just, it makes sewing up the backs of those socks a lot easier.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh man.
And you don't always need to have something
I
like
do
that
not
at
always
your
need to have
house.
that in my sewing drawer.
Right.
So yeah.
Or the classic answer is a stud finder. You know, you're only going to need that for that one picture you have to hang.
Yep.
So check it out from your library.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Stephanie, anything else coming up over in Grand Ledge that you're excited about? Besides
Well, I mean, just like many of us, we have March's Reading Month coming up in March. So this is a very big month for us. It's like our second biggest month other than the beginning of summer reading program. So we are doing a thing called Library Land, which is basically a big, gigantic board game that goes through the children's department. So we'll be putting like like square spaces on the carpet throughout the children's department. You get a game board and you roll a die and you do the action that's on each of these squares, and it takes you through the children's department. Maybe small, but to a small child, that's fun to weave in and out of the bookshelves doing actions. We have scavenger hunts in the library as well. We do an adult, like, guess this book jar. We have guest readers, lots of programming. It's very busy time for us. And Grand Ledge is very famously in the area known for having parades. It is something that the town really, really loves to do. So we have a St. Patrick's Day parade that we celebrate. So we do a pre-parade party at the library that brings in a lot of people. It's a nice place to stay warm because obviously it's March. It's still not quite, well, it might be warm, but it might be freezing.
Right.
We don't know. It's Michigan. So yeah, like just it's about to be a very busy time for us. The spring is the nice kickoff of everybody wanting to go outside and be doing things somewhere else other than home.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So thank you so much for joining us on our little podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And send us in the email, send us your info about creepy, am I saying it right? Kawaii?
Yeah.
Creepy Kawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to share that in the show notes too. Oh my gosh. Okay. How about the rest of your day? What happens next? Like literally next.
I'm going to go on lunch because I'm
great.
super hungry right now. And then I just did brochure delivery around town. So I'm going to continue doing that, go to the local businesses that I can get to. I think it's possibly, it's snowing outside, but hopefully the roads aren't too bad. Yeah, I know. I don't want to be out there either.
Oh, it's already snowing outside here, Jeff. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no.
It doesn't look like it's like big super flakes though, like it was the other day.
Sure.
So hopefully
you know
we'll
what this
hold
could
off for a
mean,
little while.
Jeff?
What's that?
Fortifying coffee.
Oh yeah.
Excuse for fortifying coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we might do that. Okay. Well, it's going to stop at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Stephanie, you're the best. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it was great to meet you.
Great meeting you too. All right.
That was awesome. You always find the coolest people for cool library people, Jeff.
Yeah. Aw. Well, but is it hard?
No, actually.
That's the thing.
I mean, like, it's one of those things that I think the praise is both deserved, but also not difficult.
Sure.
Which is one of the things that makes this, I think, the best job.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I know that we had a callback to our presentation at the MLA annual conference, and I think one of the best things about that, not to take anything away from us, is not necessarily the presentations, but it's just getting able to meet cool library people.
Oh yeah, that's the best part of conferences.
All over the place.
Hands down, best part of conferences. I like now have people that I like consider like conference buddies.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it's like how English doesn't have enough words for like friends and degrees of acquaintance. And I love having that sort of class of colleague that's like, well, they work at other libraries and maybe you only see them at conferences, but when you see them at conferences, you're like, we're getting a coffee, we're getting a meal, conference buddy, how you been?
And it's like no time has passed.
Exactly.
But there's yet so much to chat about. Well, we had fun chatting today.
Thank you for listening to another episode of A Little Too Quiet, the Ferndale Library podcast. It is brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. We also thank John Duffy for giving us music to open and close each episode. If you want to find out more about supporting this podcast, visit ferndalefriends.org. Please also remember to, say it with me, rate, review, and subscribe. If you leave us positive reviews, we can find more listeners, and more listeners can find us. We'll be back next time with more. Thanks again for listening.